Hello and welcome to Business Connections. I'm Holly Allen, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm pretty sure I say the word workforce several times a day working for the Chamber, and the reason for that is time and time again our members have told us that their number one concern when it comes to doing business successfully is their ability to find a skilled workforce. So we've put a lot of emphasis on finding a skilled workforce. That's our topic for today, and I'd like to welcome my guest Brian Oakes. He is with Heidelberg Distributing. Thank you so much for being with us today, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Holly.
Absolutely. You're the perfect person to have here because not only do you work for Heidelberg, which is in the logistics industry, but you also sit on our committee for DALA, which we affectionately call the Dayton Area Logistics Association. So you are pretty familiar with the workforce issue, correct?
Yes, very much so.
I would say the logistics industry is, if we had to pick one industry, is the one that has felt the finding a skilled workforce problem.
Yes.
You've felt it pretty hard. Can you give us kind of an overview of what the situation is in your industry as far as workforce goes?
Yes, Holly. I mean, we're very strained at this point for to fill positions within our network, which are truck drivers and warehouse and dock workers, things of that nature. I mean, particularly truck drivers have been the hardest void to fill. The American Trucking Association estimates that we have a 50,000 truck driver shortage today.
Wow.
Growing to 175,000 by the year 2026.
That is amazing.
It is amazing.
And what does that mean when you're trying to move goods across the country?
Well, it means longer lead times. It means delays. It means perhaps having to carry, as Heidelberg's situation has it, we end up having to carry more inventory because it takes longer to get goods from a place like California or other parts of the world, including Argentina, Australia, places we source goods from.
And I can imagine that's felt on the consumer end when they're looking for goods.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes that bottle of wine that we need to get from California doesn't make it in time, and it's not available at the local grocery store or liquor store for you to purchase.
It's interesting to think about.
Yes.
What do you think is causing the shortage? And maybe we can talk about truck drivers specifically and then move on down the line to what some of the other issues might be. But we hear so much about the driver shortage.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think truck driving has an image issue. Everybody thinks of a truck driver as some old guy sitting in a truck, driving all the way across the country, gone from their family 6-7 days a week, and it really just isn't that anymore. There are plenty of truck driving jobs that are regional truck driving jobs that you can be home every night with your family. You can make a good living driving a truck, and I just don't know that the community at large understands that that's true. That you can make a good living driving a truck, and you can be home to your family every night. Additionally, there's a diversity problem within truck driving. At this point, only 6% of truck drivers are women. Small number. So
I can't say I'm surprised by that. When we see drivers on the road.
Yeah.
It's not often you look up into a big rig, or even some of the smaller courier drivers usually are men. Correct. And why might that be? Do you have any ideas?
I think women are just not drawn to that industry today. So it's our mission to try to draw all variety of people to truck driving, to the transportation logistics industry.
Okay. And we'll talk a little more about what you're doing in just a minute, but I want to work down the line because logistics doesn't always mean truck driving.
Correct.
So can you talk about some of the other positions that you could get into to enter the field?
Logistics includes dock workers, so we need people loading and unloading trucks inside of the warehouses. We've got inventory specialists. We have order processing. Heidelberg, as an example, every night our outbound is equal to our inbound during the day. So we've got a team of people who process orders to make sure that the local grocery stores and liquor stores get the product they ordered the previous day. So it's a 24-hour turnaround. So there are just a variety of jobs there, a variety of jobs.
You mentioned that, and I guess I need to take a step back because it's called supply chain management, right? So you don't make the wine there at
Correct.
Heidelberg Distributing, which you've seen on 75. You've got the big old Cooper Tire building there, which you have beautifully remodeled.
Yes.
If you get a chance to go see Heidelberg's building, take that chance. But you don't make it there. So talk about where you are in the so-called supply chain. What do you do at Heidelberg?
We are really the middle tier. So you have the manufacturer and then you have the retailer. And we're that middle tier. So manufacturers obviously produce the wine. We then order the wine, arrange for shipping to Heidelberg, and we have 9 locations throughout Ohio, not just Cooper Tire or the old Cooper Tire building on Dryden Road.
I put that in your head, I'm sorry.
You did. It's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Not just our Dryden Road facility. And so we source products from all over the place. We then warehouse them for a period of time. And so during that period of time, we're keeping inventory. We're stocking goods from a backstock location to a place where we're going to pick it and process it out the door to a customer. We then deliver it to a retailer via a truck. So we have truck drivers involved at that point, and then you go to the store and you buy it.
I sure do.
That's right.
Okay, so you're keeping track of the inventory as it moves along. That makes sense now. You were talking about some of those positions, so your dock workers. Who else do you have in that facility that you're trying to fill positions for? We
have forklift operators. We have, we have management specialists as well, people who specialize in managing warehouses. Mm-hmm. We've got the inventory control folks. Supply chain, so we have a whole team of people who they just order product. That's what they do. They're looking at
that. I like to shop, right?
Yes, and it is a fun thing to do. You're looking at how much we sell of a certain brand or item, and then you're placing an order to the supplier, which is a very key part of the process.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun job. Can you talk about maybe the skill sets that people would need to have in order to get into your industry? Is there an entry level and then they work their way up? How does that work? There are, and I think different companies have different strategies. Heidelberg has got a lot of entry level positions in logistics, and we will then train someone to higher levels, all the way up to and including a Class A CDL truck driver job. All of our drivers at Heidelberg are home every night. We don't work Saturday or Sunday. So nice. It is nice. You have all the weekends off. Most holidays, you're off. So yes, there's just a wide variety. Entry level to a Class A CDL driver. And the demand for a Class A CDL driver today has driven up the price for a Class A CDL driver. So your ability to make a living and have a good life as a truck driver it's there. Okay.
So.
I can imagine, is there strategy behind the way you kind of groom your employees to work their way up? You're trying to fill those positions, right? So I can imagine there's a strategy to keeping someone in your doors.
Absolutely. So we bring them in, obviously at an entry level. It is a lower paying job at that point, but they don't really have any skills. So we hire for attitude and try to train for skills. So yes, it certainly is. You're going to have a better retention if you can grow someone organically within your company.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That makes complete sense. And I'm sure every business within the industry has their own strategy.
Yes.
But I can't imagine that you're not constantly thinking about your workforce need. So.
Correct.
So speaking of what Heidelberg is doing and your involvement with the Dayton Area Logistics Association, which is a program within the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, your group recently took a real hard look at what you could do to try to turn around this workforce issue specifically for the logistics industry. Can you talk about what you decided to do to tackle the topic?
Yeah, we've really tried to introduce these jobs and that available or that need. We've tried to introduce that need to students, especially at the high school level and even entry-level college that may not be college material. And we're trying to raise the awareness within the community that these jobs are out there, they're available, and they pay well. Mm-hmm. So we've held events with local area high school guidance counselors, mm-hmm. Brought them in, taken them to a few different distribution locations. I believe one was Rush Trucking, the other was Heidelberg. Introduced them to some of the jobs that we have, showed them some of the wages that are available for these jobs. So we're taking a progressive stance, and we're really trying to interact with that demographic of people.
Right, because that's like you said, that's where you want to catch them. If you have a student who doesn't necessarily want to go on to college, they can still have a fruitful career. So you want to catch them before they graduate and let them know that, hey, these opportunities exist and you can have a good career with your family. You can have it all. if you get
Yes.
into this industry. So you talked about the interaction you've had with those high school counselors, but when you mentioned the image problem that maybe the truck driving field has, you used video to tackle that, correct? Can you talk about that? And we'll show a little bit while you're talking.
We created a fun video that sort of glamorizes the logistics industry, if that's possible.
It is possible.
Yeah. The logistics industry is not particularly sexy, right? So, what we tried to do was show that there are women working in this industry. There are lots of young people working in this industry. We have a very diverse palette of people. It really is. It's incredible. When you walk into Heidelberg, the amount of diversity that exists there is amazing. Across ethnicities, we have lots of women working in our warehouses. We've got lots of different age groups. So we vary from 18 years old right out of high school up to 60-year-old guys who have been with us 25 and 30 years.
And that's, I'm sure, an environment that most people would like to work in. It's not something you would expect walking into a warehouse.
But the video was designed to showcase that.
Right. And you brought in people from all different local businesses, local companies within the industry to talk about different facets.
Yes.
So like I said, we'll show a little bit of that video. It is available at DaytonChamber.org if you want to take a look. But that's your approach, I take it, to kind of change that image issue you say you have. Although, I don't know, you work so closely with beer and wine, I don't think you necessarily have an image issue over at Heidelberg.
The logistics industry has an issue.
The logistics industry, right,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So can you tell us what the community as a whole, if someone's watching this and they're not necessarily in the industry and they're not in education, what can the community do to help you with this issue?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
That is a
That's
good
why I asked it,
question.
right?
What can the community do? The community, obviously, it's just awareness. Help us raise awareness that these jobs are out there. Don't be afraid to apply for these jobs and ask questions about these jobs. Visit the new video that we've made and check these jobs out. I'm falling apart, sorry.
You're doing fine. I would say, I think one of the things that we at the Chamber have kind of run into as well are, parents at home who you don't necessarily always have to push your children into college if it's not a good fit for them, if it's not something they want to do. Because again, there are opportunities to make for a really good career without going to a four-year, get your four-year degree and so on. There are trades out there that are great. Where does the industry go from here?
We'll really try to use technology to fill that void in the near future. We're already using a lot of tested and true technology inside the warehouses that helps some automation. But from a truck driving perspective, driverless trucks are being tested at this point, but they're not a viable solution anytime soon. And even if driverless trucks take hold and become a viable solution, you still need a person driving that truck the first mile and last mile. That's something that'll never go away. So in the end, we need people. That's what we're going to need for the future. We need people who want these jobs.
And if the American Trucking Association is correct and you make it to that number you mentioned at the beginning of the show, where your shortage is that great, what would that mean for the industry?
Well, it would mean a higher cost of moving goods, and that cost eventually gets passed down to consumers, right? That's the way our economy works. So it would mean a higher cost, longer lead times, all of those things. You may not be able to get that Amazon package the next day.
Probably
Possibly.
not, I'm guessing. Yeah. Well, and that's something for people to think about. We talk about what can we do to help. I think it's important to realize that this isn't just an isolated issue. In the end, it's going to affect everyone as consumers. So it's something we need to see, how can we do to help the industry fix this problem. Is there anything you wanted to add I didn't ask you about?
No.
No?
No,
We got
I
it
have
all?
nothing to add. You got it all.
I extracted every bit of
You got
information.
it all.
Well, Brian, thank you for being with me today and being on Business Connections, sharing a little bit of information. You can view the video that we talked about, saw a little bit of today at DaytonChamber.org, as I said. And all you have to do is click on News and then Chamber TV once you get to the homepage. We also want to hear from you. Give us some input. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Make sure that you give us a like on there. For the meantime, I'm Holly Allen, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. Thanks so much for being with us, and stay tuned for a message on this topic from our President and CEO, Phil Parker.
One of our Chamber's important initiatives surrounds the need to recruit and retain young talent to our community. Several years ago, we created a program, merging it with another that we felt was needed to stimulate this workforce need. I was a JC back in the day, but unfortunately that organization has not kept pace with the needs of the 25 to 35-year-olds. Our new community program, Generation Dayton, is a thriving initiative that supports personal and professional development, plus civic involvement of our younger workers, future leaders, and business owners, plus all the while helping employers attract and retain this talent of our next generation of entrepreneurs. Today's program highlights this initiative, including an update about Gen D's mentoring program. We hope you've enjoyed learning more about the needs and future of our younger generation and Generation Dayton.